Hello, my hearties, to my green fields of hay or whatever, to another week of comic books with me, your friend Carlz. Let's discuss some. I don't know. I call this a transition week, except for the book of the week. Um, News-wise, already Marvel is hyping up what's coming after One World Under Doom, and they have already announced Scarlet Witch. What is the title of the book? Scarlet Witch, Sorcerer Supreme or something? Meanwhile, I'm here suffering with allergy season and whatnot. But there's something interesting about that, no, or maybe not interesting, but worth mentioning. I think they have managed to do pretty well with that by announcing n- like the aftermath of One War Under Doom, but it's really spread it out, and it's not really clear how would Wanda get the Sorcerer Supreme mantle. I didn't read the preview or anything. Like I read the headline, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to know more, so I'm just gonna leave it for the books. But yeah, they already announced that, and hell, let's go straight into it because some of the not news but things that happen I need to discuss with the books. Let's dive right into it. One of the biggest surprises for me from the Age of Revelation current ongoing storyline was the Book of Revelation. Going into it, I thought it was going to be like exclusively about Revelation, Cypher, Doug Ramsey. Keep forgetting his last name. But issue one was quite surprising. I think they went really deep into, especially Fabian Cortez, who is like a repeated offendant and assholery in the world of the X-Men. But seeing that in the future he remains being an asshole and everything, but well, that's not the point. They went deep into the process of revelation, and I don't know why it felt so proper that this so-called ghost of Philadelphia, spoilers of issue 1, we are already in issue 2, happened to be Kitty Pryde. I love Kitty Pryde. I'm soon doing my X-Men tier list, and I think it's one of those characters that just keeps changing. Like recently, somebody talked about, oh, I'm not gonna say where, but it was a mention of, oh, these characters are always like this. Like these characters are not static. And if there's one of those characters that is an example of that, is Kitty Pryde. And I loved seeing her as the ghost of Philadelphia and like trying to like plant dissent while being a ghost. And I don't know, the system of revelation, the book of Revelation itself ended up being like what it shows the cracks in between. And I think that has been great of the Age of Revelation. Like every book seems to start at the point where the system is kind of collapsing. You know, this is 10 years in the future, but every book is about a crack in the foundation, people defecting already, or like people plotting. Like it's been great in general. Some of them have been less interesting than the others, like the last Wolverine, or yeah, I mean Laura Kinney's Sabertooth is fun because I'm a sucker for family dynamics. But yeah, I think Laura's way to spread it out between alternative versions and whatever. But like this one, the Book of Revelation, going straight into the core of the Revelation Nation. That's a rhyme, right? Goes straight to the Revelation Nation and puts Kitty Pryde as a descent, and like the fact that she's a ghost, like an idea, that's awesome. I think it's been overall the Age of Revelation has been great. Certainly a little bit better than One World Under Doom in general, and Imperial, like absolutely. Let's talk about that a little bit later. Let's go with the next recommendation. That was X-Men Book of Revelation, issue 2. So I talked about Captain America, I think, a couple of episodes ago, but now it's getting to the nitty gritty of it. Chip Zdarsky current run, it's been so interesting, and now they did something that, you know, I like what happened. I'm not gonna spoil it, but like basically these two Captain Americas that are like in the same moment in time. Like this is basically, it's not a retconning, but it's like a deepening of Captain America First Awakening into our day and age. But finally, something happened that, for some reason, I kept thinking, how did this not ever happen before? This is so weird because the concept of Captain America, time-wise, is a strange concept because he was in World War II, right? And World War II is a static moment in time. World War II, it's always going to be World War II. What do I mean by this? It's determined by the historical context, like in such an extreme way. So the base of Captain America is like written in stone. It's never gonna change. It's always going to be about World War II, the Nazis, and the Allies. It's always going to be like that. But as we keep moving forward in time, the concepts that were implied during World War II have evolved and changed. So when they first brought back Captain America, was it like when was he created? Like he was created around World War II, right? Like I'm not. But anyways, the point is, it's been like more than 80, 90 years since Captain America's original ethos was the main one, and throughout that history, you can bring him back in the 90s, and it's different from bringing Captain America in the 2000s, and it's different to bringing Captain America in the 2020s. And that's been the good thing about our Secret Wars, the current run on Captain America. And this is a character that not only allows himself, but invites the sort of not retconnings, but updating to the character ethos. This is important. And what happened in the past issue, in the last issue of the book, was the question that, like the question that needed to be asked of the character. What are you gonna do now about this? You know, this is what your country stands for. What are you gonna do about it, Captain America? You know, the fact that they allow Starsky and Tim to do it, it it might be low key controversial. This is what I like about Marvel sometimes. Sometimes they ask the hard questions. They go even unnoticed sometimes, but they do it. And they do it well. Perhaps it's a little bit, I don't know, dressed up with the costumes and the colors and whatever Spider-Man is doing. But the hard questions are there. And this is Captain America issue 5 of the current run, Our Secret Wars. Let's see how they answer the call, and no, how they answer the question. It's gonna be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. This was almost my book of the week, but it's not. Next one. So they're coming with another Spawn book. I said it. I mentioned it last time. My strange relationship with Spawn. They are releasing Spawn Dark Ages. My first reaction was like, wasn't that medieval Spawn? I don't know. This is another Spawn during like the Middle Ages in like England and whatever. And why am I recommending it? And why am I gonna check it out? Because it looks fucking cool. Somehow I've given up into like understanding or enjoying Spawn's story arcs or whatever they are fucking doing right now. Like who knows? Who like they have so many factions and like weird powers. I don't know. But I'm gonna check out Spawn the Dark Ages because it looks cool. I'm not familiar with the author or anything, so I have nothing to say about it. But it looks cool. I'm not expecting any world-breaking thing, but I think Spawn is gonna be it's one of those books that eventually is gonna take a leap back into a simpler times. And by this I mean just like heaven and hell they fight. Where? That's what I mean. And I think it will be like the best refresher you can have for the franchise. Even though they keep saying that they're doing so well with the Spawn Universe titles, and they keep releasing some weird ones about some witches and like some like I don't know. Where's my dude fighting against hell? Where's that? Where's that dude? That was my Spawn. But anyways, Spawn the Dark Ages, of course, by Image Comics. It at least looks cool, and perhaps that's the best you can get out of Spawn these days. Something that looks cool that you liked. Like, wait, this Spawn came out in like '98, right? So it's like 20 something years. Like, fuck, whatever, man. Next, there's another big book that has been hyped by Image. I don't know if this is a like, how can you say, like a publicity or they invested a lot in it. I'm not familiar with Tyler Kirkham, the author, but man, they hyped this book up in like Image socials and everything. This book is called Final Boss, and it's about like this guy that gets powers and does like street fights, but they have hyped it up like action and like the one that caught my attention was this is like a video game. This is going to be like a video game. The character is gonna look so cool, and I didn't put this after Spawn for like this is not a like something that just happened. Was intentional because they've been hyping this book as that type of book, something that you would read at the early 2000s and like, so this is so badass, he just goes around punching people and he's so fucking cool. And well, I have no issue with that, and I think it's part of the spirit of comic books to me. And it's something that I liked as a kid and I still enjoy now. Like I can say I don't. I'm not only like enjoying the deep comic stories and like super strong message of I don't know. The guy looks like that character from DC, the one that also use a he wears a rag on his face. What's his name? The Prowler, the Killer. I don't know. Those like B tier characters that some people really love. You know, like I have nothing against Animal Man. I think he's a cool character, but he's B tier. And at some point, it was everyone's favorite character, and he was so cool. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's okay. He ain't no Batman, right? He ain't no Superman. Oh, I should do that tier list too. He's not even Green Arrow, man. And Green Arrow is like C, maybe at best. But anyways, Final Boss, they've been hyping it up. It's supposed to be lighthearted, a lot of violence, old school. Let's see how it goes. Perhaps you should read it right after Spawn and like to see if it really captures that early teenage craziness comic book story, right? Final Boss from Image Comics. Next, they're releasing in between Lion King. I don't know. There's a little weird interconnection between this. Okay, I've made no secret that I'm a fan of most of the Darth Vader books Marvel has released. So when I read they're releasing Lion King prequel, that it's like stories about Simba and Mufasa, like way before the events of the movie. So it's between Simba's birth and, spoiler, his dad's passing. They're gonna tell stories about it. And I remember that Mufasa was James Earl Jones, Darth Vader. So my brain, this connection, this triggering connection about like, oh man, this is gonna be like the Darth Vader book. To be honest, even though I love The Lion King, it's a great movie and everything. I don't know what else could you say about Simba and Mufasa's relationship before the events of the movie. I think that that's one of the brilliant things about the movie is that you don't really need to know. Like the teachings are kind of like obvious. Like from where the sun touches, this is your kingdom or something, right? Like that's what he says. Like anything that is implied in Mufasa's teachings is already there. I don't need to spell it out for you. I don't need to spell it out, the teachings and everything that happened. So I'm kind of curious because there's a high chance that it's just gonna be an expansion of what you already thought about in your head, right? Like your intuition already completed Simba's and Mufasa's relationship before the events of the movie. But yeah, I think what Dynamite has been doing with the Disney IPs has been quite good. I mentioned the Maleficent book from a couple of weeks ago, and I think issue one was really fun. It's really fun because you can get these characters talking like characters. That is, I think, the most triggering part of these books. Because in the movies, they don't have time to be people, right? They just have to be characters. So what they do and what they say is so conditioned by the length of the movie and the fact that it's for kids. But in the book, you can already see some seeds of personhood, which is really cool. So I think Dynamite overall has been doing really well with the Disney IPs. So let's hope the Lion King is no exception. But we'll see. Be prepared. Next. So I said that I was going to talk about the other Marvel event. What the fuck happened with Imperial, man? What kind of ending was that? This is Jonathan fucking Hickman, right? And it's like the most non-ending ever. It felt like a Netflix series mid-season finale. I'm not gonna spoil Imperial's ending, but it was like a stage ending just to push the other books. And even though this is not rare, this is not something they don't do. I expected more from Imperial and Kirkman, given the beginning of the event, right? Given what was happening, the dissolution of the cruel of the Kree Skrull Imperium, the going back of the Inhumans, T'Challa going to space again, Nova being the book feature now, functioning as the repository of all the Nova consciousness, like Peter Quill going back to be ruler of Spartax. These are big shit, but they didn't really have to do much with the event. It just happened. That like body cop sort of situation trip that Nova, Star Lord, and Shuri did throughout planets and galaxies. It felt like that, like a body cop movie. They just went around figuring these things out. But in the end, doesn't even matter. I don't know. It was so weird. Meanwhile, nothing really happened with the tie-in with Professor Xavier. I think it's still going on, but publication-wise, definitely wasn't tied into the event. The fact that the Imperial was happening, like it really didn't connect with what Xavier is doing with Lilandra. Planet She-Hulk is now picking up some speed, and it actually looks really interesting as a story for She-Hulk. Since I haven't been that much of a fan of the previous, I think Rainbow Rowell's did the other ones, like the whole thing with her just about her romantic relationship with Jack. What's his last name? Jack, whatever the. But anyways, if I had to say something on Imperial, I think I can call it underwhelming. Definitely. Looking back into the beginning of the event and them saying like this is gonna change the world of intergalactic Marvel forever, didn't change anything. It was merely a setup. So now, if you wanna know if something important happened, you are forced to check whatever book they release about the Inhumans. You are forced to pick up Nova Centurion. You are forced to pick up whatever they're gonna do with Peter. I think they're releasing a new Guardians book. I think they're doing a new Guardians, which of course nowadays is always related to Peter Quill after the movies. Right? You gotta check out whatever Black Panther is gonna do. So I don't want to say I hated it, but I want to say it's completely underwhelming. So I have no other choice but to recommend Nova Centurion. you know? So I guess it worked. It worked because even if you're interested in one of these intergalactic characters, you are fucked. You are. They created this context for intergalactic Marvel that is so interconnected because what happened in Imperial was important. Even though it was underwhelming, it was important. So you are fucking doomed. You need to follow all of these books, even if you're interested in one of them. They're releasing a new Wiccan book. I know that. So there's a new Nova, there's a new Wiccan, which is definitely going to have to do something with what happened with Imperial, right? There's a new Nova, there's a new Weekend. The thing about Professor Xavier hasn't ended. She-Hulk, Planet She-Hulk is just starting now. The new Guardians. I'm not. They're gonna do something about the Inhumans for sure. But you see, there's like 7 or 8 books that are gonna be in your mind out of sheer curiosity from Imperial. That's a cheap shot, Marvel. That's a cheap shot, Jonathan Hickman. Cheap shot. Next. Going back to the other event that I do like more. One really nice surprise was Omega Kids. This week we have issue 2 of Omega Kids, part of the Age of Revelation storyline. Basically, Quentin has like his own school of like psychic kids that are called the Omega Kids. In paper, that's just like okay, this is just a bunch of psychic kicks. But the big turn in issue 1 was that how would Quentin Quire, like, what would a Kid Omega student look like? How would they behave? How would they live their lives? And in issue 1, the question was answered, and I think most of us that have followed Kid Omega, like career and everything. I'm a fan, by the way. This is how you expect, like, not his sons and daughters, but his students to be like. and it was so funny. It's so funny. I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say if you're a fan of the character, you're gonna be a fan of the book. It's ambiguous. It's borderline politically incorrect. There's a bunch of how call it? Can you say assholery or douchiness? Everything is there. It's been quite fun, and I think they're gonna put them into a situation like this, a Quentin Quire situation where, like, yeah, he's an asshole, but he's a good asshole. You know, this is just issue 2. I don't want to spoil anything, but this is another one that I highly recommend out of the Age of Revelation. If you like Kid Omega and if you like Quentin Quire style, this is a story for you. Now, excuse me, I have to sneeze because allergies. I'm back. So, Omega Kids, part of the Age of Revelation storyline, super fun. Another good one. They all might be at least B tier for me. Get it? I talk about the Punishers, the red whatever some months ago. So this is an update sort of story. The whole deal with this new Punisher story, I guess that he's been like brainwashed by the Kingpin into doing his bidding. He's like a killing machine. It's the thing that he's the best at. I think even more than Wolverine maybe. Why this is important and why this is an update of something that I've been recommending. That I think, as I said before, the previous volume of Punisher ended up in such a high note that I don't wanna see it gone. I don't wanna see. I wanna see the repercussions of that ASAP. And the fact that he's being manipulated by the Kingpin and they basically brainwashed him tells you that, or for some reason in my mind, it gives you a space in between to go back to the end of the previous volume. You know, that context of a Frank Castle brainwashed allows you to reinsert that storyline into the character. Will they do it? I'm not entirely sure. But to me, that's like a big enough space to, oh, well, they're gonna bring back the story that I follow for, like, how long was the previous volume? A couple of years? Maybe even more than a couple of years, maybe 3 years. That was, to me, the best, like, moment to be a Punisher fan since, like, maybe Garth Ennis. With the joke Punisher, like, punching fucking polar bears in the face. Does anyone remember that Punisher days? Man, those Punisher days were the best. It was so Garth Ennis doing that sort of in your face, disrespectful kind of comedy that only he knows what he only he knows how to write those when he's not too busy writing some jerk off World War II bullshit. you know. But anyways, yeah, stay with the Punisher. I think it has potential. This is issue 3. Next. Uh, I always talk about James Tynion and like every week. One of his weird books, he released a long book before that. It was called Blue Book, and it was like fictionalized version of UFO stories. It was okay. It was okay. It wasn't. It was no X Files, but it was okay. It was interesting to see like the spin, like a narrative spin on UFO talk. Blue Book was all about UFO stories on the US. But now this is issue 2 of Red Book. These are UFO stories on the quote unquote East. It's China and Russia. And it's been surprisingly interesting how he's capable of capture the different sensibilities of these cultures. These UFO stories are mostly focused on the past. I'm not gonna say it's a Cold War type of book, but now that they release Red Book, it has some way more stronger Cold War vibe. But he captures the narratives of both cultures pretty well, like the red and blue culture, if you want to call it like that. And I love UFOs, and I love James Tynion, so it's a great recommendation for anyone that also digs UFO stories, even though most of them are BS. We have to say it. And when I was reading Blue Book, some of those stories you were reading them, and you could feel like those stories would be ridiculed. They would be ridiculed because they're just so stupid. But if you put them into like fancy words with cool art and in a comic book, yeah. So if you're interested in UFOs and you like James Tynion writing, and perhaps you are interested in this context of Cold War ish, Red Book is for you. Published by Dark Horse Comics. You can go and read Blue Book if you haven't read Blue Book, or if you are like, fuck them, I like communists better, just go right into Red Book. It's pretty fun. You like X Files? You're gonna dig this. Next. This has been a full Age of Revelation week because I've been loving the event. But Unbreakable X-Men is like the follow to Gail Simmons. What is the current one? Uncanny, the one with Gambit and Rogue. But anyways, this is like the direct continuation of it. Gambit took over not a school but the family. They were like sort of like a family. Rogue sacrificed herself to save these. How do you call it? Outlier? It's like an outlier, like a group of X-Men. They're not like official X-Men or anything. There's like no fucking Cyclops or like, it's just Gambit. And I said that I was gonna mention this before because somebody said that recently, like, oh, Gambit is just like that. He has never been anything but like this. Here's the example of why not. This is an extremely well written Broken Gambit. It's so amazing. I mentioned it before that probably Gambit and Rogue's relationship is like my favorite romantic relationship among the X-Men. And what would be the situation in the future if Gambit were to lose Rogue? How would he change? And this is a completely different, sad, but powerful Gambit. And they kept all of these characters that are with him in the present, in the Uncanny X-Men, I think. So the emotions are there. It's amazing. Let's think about how they're doing in the present and how would it be in the Age of Revelation. How would they behave in the Age of Revelation? How the leaders turn into leaders, the dangerous one lay into the danger, and the leader like Gambit, how he evolved. And this shows how can you write a change character and use comic narratives to make it interesting. What do I mean by this? This is an alternative future, but it's so well written that this is a believable Gambit. Not only this is a believable Gambit, but you know the Age of Revelation is gonna haunt the characters in the present as well. So it shows you how a character in this comic environment can change, stay the same at the same time. They can live different lives. They can behave differently. They can do all of this magic stuff because of how comic books are made. And that is amazing. So Unbreakable X-Men, of course, being the Age of Revelation book of my current favorite X-Men book. of course I'm gonna love it. They did Gambit and all of these characters justice, like totally. I highly recommend it to see how comic narratives help characters develop, even if it's not in a permanent way, is in the right way. Even if this is an alternative future, it's still relevant and current, and that is just amazing, especially for a character like Gambit. So if anyone has any doubt on how characters change in comic books, or how much can they how flexible they are as characters, you can go no further than Unbreakable X-Men, part of the Age of Revelation. To be honest, I didn't think that I would be enjoying the Age of Revelation so much as I've been doing, because I was a skeptic at the beginning. I think I mentioned it, the whole thing about being 10 years in the future and like being an alternative future kind of thing. Like that thing, those things are not necessarily always coming back to the present, and I was a skeptic, but I think they've used this as an opportunity to not write the future of these characters, but like as I said, use these comic style narratives to tell you like this is the mind of the character, this is how it works, this is how it changes, this is how it behaves. So even if you're not gonna see it right away, the seeds are there. It's great. Unbreakable X-Men. Issue 2. Next. We've reached the TTT book of the week. And of course, it's none other than the end of the One World Under Doom event and storyline. I'm not gonna spoil anything because the last issue was crazy. The fact that Doctor Doom is this tragic character is so awesome. Sometimes it is repetitive, I know, but it's great because it's a unbreakable fact that arrogance hits you where it hurts the most. Like arrogance, not necessarily as a villain, but as a human being. Arrogance is gonna come back and bite you in the ass. And sadly for Doctor Doom, probably in one of the worst ways he could have imagined. Not only that, but what happened in issue 8, if it remains, you know, it's a low-key big deal. And I say low-key because it's really important, but it doesn't seem to be in any headline. Perhaps people have already read issue 9 and they already know what happens. I don't know what happens, but issue 8 was crazy. And I love when you know, comic book events or storylines, sometimes they are forced to end, sometimes abruptly, and they just end, sometimes in a transition state like Imperial. But the important thing for them is to end in an event or like something that happens that is important, not necessarily in the big scheme of things. This is Marvel we're talking about. This is too big and it's too fast. It's already another event all around the corner, right? Like it's gonna be there, but it has to something important for the characters has to happen. This is what gives depth to the characters. This is what makes them enjoyable. This is what makes them persons rather than characters. This is what transcends, to me, the pages from just being this is just a villain. He does bad things and good guys come to get him. This is what transcends. This is what makes these characters awesome. And that is what happened in the end and conclusion of One War Under Doom. A lot of Doctor Doom, like traditional tropes, as I said, the arrogance and everything. But you gotta hit them when it matters. And I think the end of the event is gonna be like that. As I said, issue 9 comes out today, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But they set it up perfectly in issue 8. I was like, I can't believe it. I was like, I, that's the perfect thing when you read the previous issue and you go like, I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And that was issue 8. I can wait what's going to happen in issue 9. We already know that Scarlet Witch is gonna become the Sorcerer Supreme, and like Doctor Strange, we know he's coming back. We know all of this, but what turn is gonna like Doctor Doom gonna have now? I, I'm 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 so excited about it. So excited. One World of Doom issue 9, the end of the what 3-4 months event. There's no way it's gonna be as meaningless as Imperial. No way. One World of Doom, issue 9, my book of the week. And last but not least, why am I recommending this World's Finest? So, I've said that World's Finest is telling like stories of Superman and Batman's past when they just met and everything. So they have been developing as partners, getting to know each other. It has been fun. It hasn't been anything so extreme as I don't know, as Captain America. I mentioned him being updated, his past being updated. Not even in DC itself, like the what they're doing with Superman in Action Comics. I think one of the Superman books is dealing about Superman's past. Like World's Finest hasn't been anything of that level. But of course, you gotta recommend a book where Lex Luthor and the Joker are gonna do something together. My I decided to recommend this book for that mere fact. There are like cornerstones in comic books that you just have to experience. So even if you don't know anything about the book or what they're doing, I'm gonna tell you this is an early story where Lex Luthor and the Joker are teaming up. You gotta check that shit out, right? There's no two ways about it. You gotta check that shit out. So that's what I'm gonna tell you. You gotta check this shit out. That cover is so amazing, especially because both Lex Luthor and the Joker, like now, what is the Joker even doing right now? I think I lost track of where he is right now. After the whole Favok, three Jokers, what else happened? He came back. He had like a what did he do? He had like a grip on some criminals. I don't know, man. The Joker is no pun intended, a fucking crazy character. Where he is right now, I have no idea. Probably the latest like big thing they did with was three Jokers. And as I talk about comic book endings, three Jokers had one of those endings. That was like, okay, like, okay, you know. So like, so many things happens, but in truth, nothing really happened. It was like, okay. But anyways, Lex Luthor and the Joker shaking hands. As I said, staple in comic books. You gotta check that shit out. And that is for another week of comic books. A lot of X-Men, which is kind of, um, I don't know, no, it's not intentional, but it coordinates with what is happening in Marvel Rivals with Gambit. Everybody's talking about Gambit. Everybody likes to talk about Gambit. And he was never one of my favorite characters. Like never. He was cool in the games though, like in the Capcom fighting games. But anyways, Age of Revelation doing great. One World of Doom, really hyped to check that shit out. And as I've been saying since like September, we're coming close to the end of the year. Looking forward to read some more of DC's KO. Even like the end of the Scorch, the one of the side books for the Spawn universe. Even I'm looking forward even to into that. Like it's comics, man. There's always something to look forward to, and I hope you all are all looking forward into reading some yourselves. That's it for me for this week. See you all next week with more comic books. And did you notice that I didn't mention or like didn't talk about any Spider-Man book today? I'm happy and proud of myself. But I'm wondering what Spider-Man's doing right now, so I might go check it out right now. Take care, everyone. See you next week.